The battle between the humans and the blood-sucking vampires begins again in the second season of the post-apocalyptic vampire series, Seraph of the End. Just in time for the Halloween season, Seraph of the End returns to chill us to the bone with its over-the-top stylized anime action. The first episode of the season sort of eases the viewers in so that they can be reminded of who the characters are, where they are at this moment, after the big events which took place at the end of the first season, where Yu went through this big monster's transformation, he was reunited with his best friend Mika and is trying to bring him over to the human side, and then we also get to see that there's a lot of mistrust amongst all of the people within the human resistance, which really comes to a head in this week's episode when we really get to see why the Hiragi family is so damn scary. One of the biggest revelations comes at the very beginning of the episode, and honestly I think it's a really nice twist, where in the first season, Shinoa kept mentioning her sister and that she's dead. At the very beginning of this episode, we learn that Gurren was actually in a relationship with her. She became possessed by this demon, and he had no choice but to kill her, and then he actually took her cursed body, placed it into a sword, making it his very own cursed weapon, so he's sort of carrying her around with him constantly. It's a really creepy little subplot, and it really just explains why Shinoa and Gurren are really at odds with each other all of the time. Despite the fact that they do know how to goof off with each other, it really shows that they have one hell of a tumultuous past. There was also a little bit of action in the first part of the episode, and you know I'm okay with that. It looked really cool, especially the look of Shinoa's weapon, which I always felt was one of the more stylized and cool-looking weapons, how it's this big scythe which takes the form of this giant fiery-looking demon. The reunions that he has with each of his team members could not be more different from one another. The first person he runs into is Shinoa, who basically is just there trying to reassure him that there is no way to turn a vampire into a human. This, and we just get to see more of her just infectious goofiness, which a lot of people hate. I think Shinoa's a great character. When he runs into Mitsuba, we learn that she gets a promotion, but a lot of this has to do with the fact that she has a very prestigious family, so she basically was just sort of handed the rank, and she really beats herself up about it, but luckily Yu is there to be the main character and give her a little bit of consoling. It's real cheesy stuff, but the episode really picks up when we finally get to see him being interviewed by the Hiragi family, which is in this massive building in the middle of the city, and as he goes to the very top, he walks into this very dark room, which has this vampire that's just sitting in the middle of it, and he's forced to kill it. And this was the very first test from the family to see if he was actually a traitor or a spy. He had no problem in taking out the vampire, so they can now begin the next part of the interviewing process. This is also where we're formally introduced to the character of Kureto Hiragi, who has appeared in the series, but this is definitely the most face time we've had with him, and he is without a doubt one of the most ruthless characters that I've seen in the entire series. He's also joined by his two subordinates, one of which I just cannot remember her name. I don't think they ever said it out loud. She's this one female who looks almost identical to Mitsuba, except that her hair is slightly different. And then you have the character of Shinya, who is definitely my favorite character from this episode without a doubt, and that's because his cursed weapon is this gun with a bayonet on the end, which can shoot giant electrified tigers, which can just run around the room. One of the coolest things and most creative things that I've seen from the series, and totally something that's just so anime. It could never appear in a live action or anything like that. It's just so distinctive anime, if you know what I mean. And it's just really a lot of fun. But after this process, after fighting against a few of those members, they go through this next part where they go into this one interrogation room where both Kimizuki and Yoichi are tied up to chairs, and they're constantly being stabbed with these knives while Kureto is actually asking all of these questions to you about his lineage. This is also where we learn probably the biggest revelation from the episode, where apparently the orphanage that Yu and Mika belonged to was this like weird experimental science group, which they were experimenting on these kids and implanting something in them. This might actually be why Yu has that weird demon that he can communicate with that's inside of his body. Maybe it's because of the cursed weapon, maybe it's a combination of the two working together. This is when the light goes off in Kureto's head and he decides that he wants Yu to join him so that he can make use of his power, but he also claims that that's the only reason that Gurren even saved him in the first place, because he just wanted to use his ultimate power so that they could destroy all of the vampires. Yu decides that he's going to join the Hiragi family, but only if Yoichi and Kimizuki are going to be let go, and that's what happens. At the end of the episode, he confronts Gurren about this, and Gurren reaffirms that that is the reason that he saved him, simply because he had that power. And Yu is curious that if he could actually bring Mika over to their side, could they give him some special treatment? We don't know if that's going to happen, but at the end of the episode, we do get a post-credit scene with Mika and Farrod and the other vampires. Mika's in total Strugglesville, the mayor of Strugglesville, if you will, because he has these blood cravings, but he doesn't want to take it from a human, so I'm guessing he's just going to have to go see the mistress of all vampires. I'm actually kind of glad that they're focusing more on the humans this episode, and I kind of wish they didn't even show that scene at the end, because I was so absorbed in that other story, and everything they did with Mika and Farrod just felt like sort of a toss-away, something they could have included in the next episode. All I know is Seraph of the End is back. So what's the rundown on the first episode of the second season of Seraph of the End? Just more of the same. This is just a really fun, over-the-top, stylized, super generic anime, but just like the first season, it's a lot of fun. Like, I can't stress this enough. This is not a groundbreaking series at all, and it has okay animation for the most part. There were a few scenes that looked pretty cool in this week's episode, but that's pretty much all the series has going for it. Like, all of the characters are just picked from a lot of different other anime series. But if you put yourself in the right state of mind, you can really enjoy this show. And if anything, it's the type of good, creepy, fun, action-stylized show, which is just perfect for the Halloween season. The biggest thing to take away from this episode, without a doubt, is the revelations about Shinoa's sister and the fact that Yu and Mika were a part of this weird spellcraft organization when they were in the orphanage. I imagine that's probably maybe one of the reasons why Mika was even chosen in the first place. Maybe he has something within himself that he hasn't even revealed quite yet, and I think that's going to be really interesting. He might even be able to go through some sort of weird, like, monstrous transformation just like you, and I think that would be pretty cool. This way we could get, like, a big, old-school styled monster mash. Another really cool thing about this episode, which was something they sort of kept on the back burner in the first season, is the levels of mistrust between all the different families and factions and organizations within the human resistance. Like how Gurren's group does not trust the Hiragi family and vice versa. I think that's going to add a nice little bit of political intrigue to the show, which I think will make the show seem a little more distinct. That, and I still think that the setting, the whole post-apocalyptic vampire setting with monsters that are just randomly roaming around, I do think that's unique. I wish we could have seen more of the big monsters and maybe more explanations about them. Otherwise, this was still a pretty good beginning to the next season. It's just a complete continuation of the last one. It doesn't skip a beat, so you might be a little confused if you are deciding to jump on at this point. I would highly recommend checking out the first season, but I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with the show this year. Like I said, nothing groundbreaking, but still a really fun show to watch with some pretty decent animation, some pretty good voice acting, some funny moments, some intense moments, some freaking violent moments. Good episode right here. If I was going to give it a score, I'd probably give it a 4 out of 5. Just good, fun, generic fun anime. So check it out, guys. It's pretty good. But I want to hear your thoughts. Are you excited about the return of Seraph of the End? Did you have a favorite scene from this week's episode? A favorite brand new character? What do you want to see from the second season? Do you think that Mika might actually be able to be turned back into a human? Do you think he has a special power that's buried deep within him that hasn't been unleashed yet? What do you want to see from the rest of the season? Please tell me in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching my review. Make sure to like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby!